Today we've got John Sanei, and it's actually take two because in the amateur part of my podcast, I forgot to do the recording for the first time after many shows, but John has been gracious with his time. And so we have John Sanei, who is a leading voice and a leading author, internationally acclaimed author of 3 incredible books. He's a voice that I listen to. He's a voice of the future. Welcome to the show, John Sanei.
Steve, wonderful to have you here. Take two. I'd like to be as sincere as possible and say, I haven't spoken to you yet, but here we are, and this is the world of modern podcasting. So yeah, great to be here, and glad that you caught that. And it's not amateur; it's just it is what it is. Eric and I have done it on our podcast quite often, but glad to be on the show with you. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. So a question that I ask many of my guests is, who is John Sanei?
So I'm a 45-year-old man who's fascinated with human psychology and futurism. I research, write, and speak about these topics around the world. And I call it modern wisdom, where we're able to combine ancient wisdom with futurism, giving us an opportunity to prepare our minds for what's coming rather than just being focused on the future. So I think the combination is very powerful. And it's seen my books become bestsellers and me traveling around the world, working with organizations and governments in pretty much all countries, all continents around the world. So I'm grateful to be on your show, and grateful to be back in South Africa for the next sort of 6 months or so while we see and wait out COVID and see what happens next year again. And hopefully we'll be back on track, living between London and Dubai next year and exploring the world.
Brilliant. Sounds good. I want to start with this interesting question: is if you had to speak to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell them?
Well, look, I'm still very energetic and very enthusiastic. You can imagine at 20 years old, I was 10 times more energetic and enthusiastic. So I guess I would have said, calm down. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to have some bumps in the road, so get ready for them. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to go bankrupt. It's okay to get divorced, which is everything that's happened in my life so far. But I never had a father figure in my life. From a very young age, I was with my mom and single mom family. And so as a 20-year-old kid, as a boy, definitely you need a lot of alpha male energy to give you direction and to coach you. And I didn't have that. So I was almost like, if you think about it, a V6 engine with no grip. I was just all over the place. So, but doing good things, but I was just all over the place.
Brilliant. So you talk about the role of a mentor or a father. Tell me, does everybody need a coach, and does everybody need a mentor?
Yeah, look, I think the thing is how eager are you to grow as a human being in whatever field, whether it's in your tertiary education, whether it's in your fitness, whether it's in your emotional state, whether it's in your career, whatever it may be. It's always wonderful to connect with people that have been there, done that, and for them to share with you their stories. But very importantly, mentors and coaches shouldn't teach you what to think, but how to think. And it's important also to take information from the right people. And unfortunately, at times when we have unhealed, unworked issues in our lives, we attract people that give us information and advice based on their benefit, not yours. And so it's important to understand where you're getting it from, but 100% I think it's important to have access to bigger, brighter, and more conscious minds and hearts around us.
Brilliant. Yeah, at Made to Thrive, we want to optimize the mind, body, and soul. And the reason I asked you to come onto the show is to talk about mindset, about optimizing the mind. If you had to start your process in the morning, how do you optimize your mind in order that you have this curious mind to ask the right questions, to keep growing, to keep developing? How do you start, and where do you start?
Well, I think before I tell you how I start, I think it's important to understand what makes you excited. And what you have to do is only focus on what makes you excited. If you can only focus on what makes you excited, you get natural access to energy. When you are pre-programmed to think you must do what you must do because your education told you, or your family told you, or culture told you, you're stuck in a notion that you're not living your life, you're living somebody else's life, trying to figure out your personality, like imprinted onto the world out there rather than the other way around. So before I tell you what my morning routine is, understand that I made a decision 5 years ago that I'll only do what makes me most excited. I will outsource everything else. And in that decision, what I've done is I've freed myself up from things that I'm actually, frankly, not really that good at. Also, don't like doing, which means that the energy I have to wake up in the morning, I'm not waking up to things I don't have to do. And that was a conscious decision because, look, like everybody else, I was stuck in the old world of doing things I thought I should be doing to get success. So first thing is make sure you have that decision-making process from a base point. The second thing is, for me, the most important thing when waking up in the morning is getting your emotional state right, not your mindset and not your physical state. For me, the emotions is by far the key, because we all know if you wake up in the morning with a little bit of anxiousness, by 11 o'clock, that anxiousness is a monster. By 3 o'clock, it's the worst day you've ever had in your life. And by 5 p.m., you're drinking a bottle of whatever or smoking a fat spliff. It depends what your drug of choice is. Or you're going for a run, which also in itself, when you're de-stressing and continuously can't stop running, that's also not really great, as you know. So for me, it's in a meditation. I'm a big student of Joe Dispenza. I do his meditations, and I have been for the last 2.5 years or so. They've had a dramatic expression on my life. And so what he always says is wake up half an hour before you're supposed to wake up, when you have high levels of melatonin in your mind, which puts you into a state of theta brainwaves between awake and sleep. And so I do these meditations where I invoke abundance, wholeness, creativity, opportunity within my being. And so when I wake up in the morning, I have a combination of that, plus the decision of doing only what makes me most excited. And now I get to write a book every year. I get to travel around the world. I make lots of money. So I've designed my life around the access to my genius. And all of us have got access to our genius. We just have to make the decision. That's all we want to do.
Great. Tell me a little bit about Joe Dispenza. I know him well in the wellness space and just the meditation sort of process. Do you have to go and do the course? I see that you went and did the course. You went and visited him. Does he offer the online process, or do you have to wait until the borders open up to go and engage with him? And how long does the process take?
So firstly, the thing with Joe Dispenza is, look, I'm obviously an author and a speaker just like him. He's on a much bigger scale. So I watch him from many different angles. So I'm watching him as a man. I'm watching him as a speaker. I'm watching him as an author. I'm watching him as a healer. And I can tell you that the thing that I find amazing and astonishing about him is his humility. He has this incredible level of never speaking about himself on stage, never pushing his agenda. It's amazing to watch, you know what I mean? And then what he doesn't have one slide, one note, and he's speaking to you for 6 or 7 days straight, from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., only him on stage, managing 1,500 people, taking us through meditations and lectures, exercises on his ace, dude. I mean, Steve, if you've ever done any public talking like I do, often 3 hours, 5 hours, you are finished. You need to take a whole day off, right? This dude is doing this 300 days a year. And so there's something that he's linked into, you know what I mean? So that's the first thing. So you're with him for 7 days. You're meditating between 4 and 8 hours a day with him. And I've been on 3 different retreats. My plan is to keep going on these retreats as soon as the borders open up. And of course, his information and courses online are amazing, but there's nothing like meditating with 1,500 people in a room with that energy of collective consciousness and collective eagerness to grow and upgrade. They've just changed my life dramatically. I've brought a lot of his work into my work. I've learned that my memories are just subjective bullshit stories that I'm holding on to. They're actually nothing else except some stories we've held on to. And he's just taught me a lot from every aspect, from being a man to author. And I love him. You know, I have a picture of him on my computer. I have a picture with him. And I just think he's a genuine human being trying to do his best to uplift people.
Sounds incredible. So that's half an hour before you wake up or should wake up. You start half an hour, you're meditating. And what's the next step in the process of getting your emotions right? If you want to get your emotions right or aligned, and then your mind after that?
So I think still on the emotion level, I go and write. I write in a journal. Again, I'm a writer. So for me, I express myself. I have this sort of journal that I carry around the world with me that gives me my opportunity to unpack what's going on for me. And then I have a cup of personality, otherwise known as a cup of coffee. And then the day starts, and then it goes into exercise, you know. And I have a very, very an amazing team around me, which manages my calendar and sort of manages my day ahead of me. So as far as that's concerned, we've got a very clear process there. I need time to think and write. I need time to do interviews like I'm doing with you right now to spread the word around my new books and what I'm doing. And then I need time to chill. So I'm a cyclist. And so my day is demarcated into 3: learn, grow, chill. And so that's the mental state that I take on. And so today I am doing actually 3 interviews today. And today is a grow day because my new book comes out in about 7 weeks. So I'm now starting to do a whole range of PR around that.
Brilliant. So that day continues. Doesn't matter whether it was pre-COVID, COVID, stress, non-stress, weekend. That's the day how you start. You start with a meditation. You start writing. You start journaling. You have a cup of coffee. You then get into your exercise. Is that a six? It doesn't matter what's happening in your life?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously with COVID, things changed slightly. And also, remember, not only was it exercise that was limited, we also had a lot of trauma come up for all of us. They've now termed it Corona Coaster.
Yeah.
But actually what it was is just old trauma that's come up for us. So I think like everybody else, I had lots more emotional stuff to deal with over COVID and less physical. So I also think it's good to be kind with yourself while being strict with yourself. And it's okay. You know, on a Sunday, I want to sleep in, and some days I don't want to do that. But I also know that if I haven't meditated for 2 or 3 days, I start getting jittery, and it's almost like an addiction of sorts. Also, if I'm not journaling for a while, I get that. So look, I would say 80% of my days are like that because I want to be in optimal form to be doing what I'm doing. But for 20% of the time, dude, you know, I can also go on a bit of a bender or be with some friends or just do not be that.
You spoke about being curious and wanting to learn and grow. And one of my virtues is the love of learning. Looking at a lot of work at the Virtues Institute, VIA.org, fantastic process, a little quick assessment where I've looked at all my virtues, my top virtues, you know, and it's really been helpful to me. And my one is love of learning. Is that a nature or is that a nurture that people want to progressively learn? Continually read, because some people just battle, they stay stagnant, they don't read, they don't listen, they almost fine with the status quo, they're very conformist in their thinking. How do you facilitate that if it's not an easy process for someone?
Well, it's not about learning, it's about asking yourself what makes me most excited, and then it becomes easy to learn. There is no such thing as short attention span. There is no such thing as attention deficit disorder. There's just, I'm bored with your shit. I don't want to do what you're telling me to do. That's what it is. So think about you and me. And I was the worst student at school. I got expelled twice. I was terrible because I didn't want to follow the rules. 1, 2, also my brain is not created for STEM. I'm not into science and maths. That's not the way my brain works. So did I have attention disorder? Yes. Was I naughty? Yes. Was I just standing around not wanting to cheat? I cheated my way through university because I hated it. But I was doing it because school told me to, my mom told me to go get a piece of paper, but all I wanted to do was an entrepreneur, wheel, deal, get out there and do what I wanted to do, but I just couldn't, I was confined. So I don't think it's a problem around learning. I think it's a problem around asking yourself the question of what is it that I'm here for? Like, why am I here? And I think it was Mark Twain who said the 2 most important days of your life are when you're born and when you find out why. Find out why. And then learning's easy, dude. The virtue of learning is give it guns. And you know, my mom is an avid gardener. She was an ex-professional in a corporate. She's an avid gardener. She's a great cook. And so what she's done is she's now set up teaching courses on cooking. And now people come and visit her garden on a farm. But what she's done, if I had to tell her, go and study management or biohacking, she'd be like, dude, leave me alone.
Yeah.
So it's really just about finding a genius. And then learning becomes obvious.
Brilliant. Speaking a lot about Simon Sinek, I'm a huge fan of finding your why. And I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of trying to help people find their why. I mean, I've coached over many years now, 5 years. So one of my principles is purpose, one of the pillars of Made to Thrive, finding people's why, finding their purpose. Tell me a little bit more about your process. I see that you're coaching. I went onto your website. You offer coaching as well. You know, how do you explore the why?
So it's a good question. The thing for me is it's quite obvious what your why is. And it's been kicked out of you since you were very young because you were taught to conform, not ask questions. Think about our religious classes when we were kids. You weren't allowed to ask the priest, the monk, anybody, whoever was up there. You weren't allowed to say, but what about this? You get a snot clap, kicked out the class. And then when you get home, your mom will give you another snot clap for embarrassing the family now in front of the religion. So if you think about that concept, that was really right throughout school, right throughout everything else, is conform And especially you and I coming from Joburg, our haircuts should have been short. Remember that? They weren't allowed to come over our eyebrow. Like, I mean, I don't know about St. Stithians, but definitely my school.
Yeah.
So the question is I think asking your why is a fancy way of saying, what does your heart sing to? What shines brightest for you? Can you trust that what shines brightest for you will become your superpower, and that will give you more abundance that you could ever imagine? Because what we've always been indoctrinated into is like, when you get a degree, when you've got that job, when you work for EY or Accenture or whoever, McKinsey's or Investec, then you've succeeded. But the truth is that is not success. That's accomplishment. That's not purpose. And so what we do is we strive for accomplishment, never really asking ourselves what makes us curious, what makes us excited, what comes alive for us. Can I combine gardening, cooking, and authoring to make myself millions of dollars and add value to the world? And the answer is yes, because there's this new thing called the internet. You can find your tribe around the world that is 5 billion people strong, will soon be 8 billion people strong. And all you have to do is find 0.00001% of them to pay you $2 a month, and you're sitting large. So you have to realize that the world has changed. It's not about conforming. It's about standing out. We are about to arrive in a new renaissance of humanity post-COVID-19. And I'm writing about this in my book, Future Next, is what comes next is spring. We're in winter. Remember that it's the death and destruction of old ways of thinking. Thank God, because actually this old ways of thinking was destroying humanity, destroying us. It was just a terrible notion of growth, the growth doctrine over everything else. So the thing for me is about starting your why is so simple, because you just have to ask yourself what makes me most excited and then trust that process. And I think most people don't. They think, I can't make money from gardening, or I can't make money from life saving, or I can't make money from writing books. I need to be an accountant or a lawyer and Bill, dude, welcome to 2020. That's all changed.
Brilliant. 3 books, What's Your Moonshot, Magnetiize, FOREsight, some incredible, writing there. My 16-year-old son, through COVID, at St. Stithians, asking questions whether he's going to continue in the structure that he's in, or is he going to go and, continue with his 3 businesses that he's got up and running already, trying to build his brand. Is he going to be doing Cambridge? What are you going to say to the youth? You've got Future Next coming. Is there a different way that's going to happen from a learning perspective, or from what makes you excited that you're able to, upskill yourself in those areas, get experience and get out there?
Look, remember that we're living in a world called the surplus society. We have a surplus of engineers, doctors, lawyers, accountants, surplus. And so every time we bring in a whole new set of high school enders into university, guess what they're all doing? They're all starting to study the same things. So around the world, you have almost like 10, 15 major subjects. And then off that, everybody's the same. So why would you want to get into a world where you're similar to somebody else in your way you think and the impact you bring to the world? So for me, we've arrived at the era of forced entrepreneurship. It's the business of you. And I'm writing a whole chapter on this, because the business of you is the way you add value to the world through authenticity and your unique combination of curiosities, because nobody else is curious like you are about what you are. So we don't want to listen to somebody who sounds like somebody else. We don't want to follow somebody or trust anybody that's copied somebody else or is regurgitating somebody else's message. We are so enthused when people show up as themselves. So my suggestion to your son and anybody else that's in that space is, as quickly as possible, find out what you're passionate about and start small businesses around it as quickly as possible. Because you learn along the game, and you learn along the way, and build yourself the digital know-how of how to get your message across the world. Learn how to be a storyteller, build empathy, become passionate, and get busy creating the business of you, not going to university, not fitting into the cog of the machine. Those days are over. Yes, you can go do it. Yes, will you learn? Yes, but what skills are you learning? You're learning the skills of yesterday, and that's the problem.
Sounds incredible. It sounds incredible the way you speak about it. But, as a father, you see your son, he needs to go and do the traditional way, although you've sort of facilitated a process for him to help with, with his businesses, opening, moving, connecting with him, people all over the world. Tell me a little bit about that confidence, though. You need self-belief, even if you know that you're good at this, you're passionate about it. I think of the word confidence. It comes from the etymology of intense trust in your passion, in your ability. Tell me about that self-belief, because it seems like a lot of people lack that self-belief to take that gap.
Look, I think you are projecting your traditional ways onto your son. It's like, yes, I've done all of this for you, but you still got to go and do that. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
you're
it's
right.
you. It's only you. And it's your story and narrative and your fear that you're projecting onto him. I don't know if he has that same fear. And he might say he does, but only because of you. So he didn't. He was a soft. He was a clean blank before you got him. You know what I mean? You infused them with your stuff. So listen, confidence is built over years of doing what you love doing and realizing that after you've spent years researching something that you're so passionate about, the next time you switch your head up or you pick your head up, people are coming to you saying, geez, John, tell me about this, or Steve, tell me about that. And as you start advising people, you start to realize that people's responses to you are like, wow, man, thanks so much for that. I never thought of it like that. But all you've done is get so stuck into your genius and so stuck into your curiosity. And when you lift your head up, you become a thought leader. And that's where confidence starts coming. You know what I mean? So self-belief is something that's built over time. Self-belief is something that you have to realize that you have to unlearn what you thought was what you were supposed to do. That's also a big part of it. You know, for me, the idea of having an agency or the idea of having many businesses and many employees and lots of money and lots was my idea of success. But as I've grown older and I've become more conscious, my idea of success is flexibility, light footprint, still making money, but adding value, not having any assets. So I've changed my whole concept of what success looks like. And that's very much linked to defining who you are and then getting that reflection point from reality, and that your confidence starts building.
Great. In terms of Marco, my son, he could stop school today, carry on with his businesses, connect with the world, build his brand. And so, yeah, he's looking into those, and hopefully we can facilitate and guide that process.
Hopefully that old man that's around him stops forcing him to do what his old man wants. It's like you Greek, right?
Yeah.
So imagine your papu saying, son, go and study electrical engineering, because that's never going to be out of fiction. You know, that's what my granddad used to say. He's like, look, I know you love this, this, and this, but become an engineer, because that will never be disrupted. But you know what is disrupted is your joy in life. So, I mean, really, it's just about getting out the way.
Tell me, his Singularity University, you know, what are you doing there? How is it looking for the future of education and the youth? Is that something that people can tap into with regards to the future and the different era of work that's going to happen, like you've already mentioned?
Look, I think everybody that's focused on the future is focused on education of the future, not only because it's a hot topic, but because everybody's got kids. So it's like it's a pressing situation, because we find ourselves in a transition phase between two very different worlds from this industrial world. We don't know what we're supposed to be studying. It's almost like it's impossible to tell. The things that we need to be focusing on are the soft skills of empathy, of passion, of grit, of storytelling, of negotiating, these are the skills that will get us to become better humans, not only in our relationships, but in business, more empathy in what you're trying to develop to deliver to the consumers that you're doing it with. So I think the skill sets that we need to be focusing on a lot more are human skill sets. And so I run a masterclass called Future Superhumans. And what I do is I take people through a 10-step process of the latest research of what you should be doing with your kids, and how you could be actually doing it yourself. Actually, in brackets behind the whole process of training, I'm like, you too as an adult need to be doing all 10 of these, because we haven't been taught them. So yes, there's a lot coming out there, and I think it's the soft skills that are going to put people far ahead than any hard skills that we could try and get ourselves ready for.
Brilliant. We'll link to that masterclass. I think I'm going to be the first one there. Whenever it's up again, I'm going to engage in it, and I'll be right on that masterclass. So thank you. Thank you for your value that you bring. I do want to talk about biotech and anything that you've helped. I've seen you got the Aura Ring, and been following you there. And also just your link to your day and Singularity University. I do want to hear more. There's a lot of people asking about the university. I've engaged in a few people, you know, that are on faculty. Tell me a little bit about biotech and Singularity. Are there movements from a medical futuristic point of view?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Singularity University has prided itself to be 10 steps ahead of everybody else. And I think when they did start out about 14 years ago, they were way ahead. And now what we've started to see is the Accentures have become futurists. Everybody's moved into that. Advertising agencies, JWT has become a futurist, and very good ones. So I think they were ahead of their time, but I do think that many people have caught up to them. And I do think that there are specialist groups out there that are doing much deeper work around biohacking, even though we have a medical director who's amazing. But I do think that there's, like the Dave Aspreys have popped up, and you popping up. And there's so many collective, intelligent people that are fascinated about the topic and are doing a lot of research around it. So as far as Singularity University concerned, look, it was started by two of my big heroes in life, Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil. I've been to Singularity in San Francisco. It sits on the same campus as NASA. I was the first African faculty member as part of their sort of university, which was just an absolute privilege to be seen in the same body as the people that I looked up to. And it's been fantastic for my career. They've sent me around the world working with organizations and governments based on my speciality of human psychology and futurism. And so we have about, I would imagine now, about 400 or 500 faculty from around the world, everybody doing their own speciality. And I think that's the key, is that they've got very big specialists in each field. So as far as biohacking is concerned, yes, there's some amazing people there that have done the genome decoding. They've got people there that are actually used to be a man, now there's a woman, and he's a lecturer or she's a lecturer now. So there's this amazing sort of desire to fast track and be part of the future. And Singularity has many of those faculties, but so do a lot of other people. Yeah, because that's what's become a hot topic. And so this hot topic is great because it uplifts the rest of humanity and gives us all access to the latest teachings and learnings.
Fantastic. If someone wants to engage with Singularity faculty member or with yourself in terms of that area of biotech and biohacking, how can they do? They just contact you direct, or the university? What is the process forward?
Oh, look, like I said, I think there's specialists in each field. I'm not that specialist, you know what I mean? So don't contact me, because I can't help you. I'm going to be following you. So yeah, look, I think you can always reach out to Singularity South Africa. Mick and Shane Mann are good friends of mine. They own the South African franchise. And then obviously you can just reach out to San Francisco directly and ask them who you could be following or who you should be following. But look, I mean, the internet's a big place. I don't think Singularity is what it used to be, and as far as the stronghold of the gatekeepers to the future. And they used to be for a while. You know, Ray Kurzweil heads up the artificial intelligence program for Google. 86% of his books predictions have come true. So yes, those were amazing stats. But today, you know, there's so many smart people out there doing this. So yeah, I think Google's your best friend in figuring this stuff out.
Cool. Tell us about your new book, Future Next, and also what's happening in Africa. What are your views on, you know, how it's going to roll out in South Africa? I know you are sort of an international citizen, Dubai, London, still got strong roots here. Tell us what's going to happen in South Africa and Africa in the next short season.
Look, we've got to realize that we are all questioning the socioeconomic systems around the world. It's not just South Africa or Africa. Everything is being questioned. And unfortunately, South Africa has had a tough past, and the sort of repercussions of that tough past were the Zuma 8 years of pilferage and just destruction. And it's going to take us a long time to get out of that. As tough as our president is, there's sort of in-faction fighting, there's still a lot of greed, there's a lot of corruption, and I don't think this is a South African issue. I think it's a global issue. I mean, if let's take away New Zealand and the Scandinavian countries and maybe even Canada to a certain extent, but everybody else is just corrupt, man. It's just a terrible sense of entitlement that the world has when it comes to these sort of things. But that's why I think COVID is such a beautiful thing, because it's creating these awakenings inside us, not only as individuals, but also questioning the socioeconomic systems around the world. And how is it that so many people are still hungry in a world that has got so much abundance? Why is it that certain people are showing off their balance sheets when other people can't eat? And this just becomes a ridiculous notion that is age-old and tired. So look, it's not just South Africa that's in for a tough time. Globally, we're in for a tough time, and we have to become okay with it, you know? So my book, Future Next, is a guidebook to what does it look like to be a citizen of the future. and what does it look like, and what are your actions, and what are the questions you need to ask as an employee of the future, an employer of the future, an entrepreneur of the future, and a policymaker of the future. So what we've done is we've written these essays, and I say we because I've partnered with a guy called Dr. Iraj Abedian, who's a world-class economist who wrote a lot of the South African constitution around the economy, a professor of economics from UCT. And so he's helped me bed down the theories around economies and socioeconomic changes. And so we've written this guidebook together to help people become clear that sitting on the sidelines, blaming and shaming a system that you are very much part of is not helping anybody. It's like sitting in traffic and complaining about traffic.
Yeah.
Look, if you weren't in the car, there wouldn't be traffic. So we've also got to take responsibility for what's going on. So this is a guidebook to look, it's a shambles out there. It's a shambles everywhere. So don't think it's South Africa. And I think as South Africans, we get caught up in our government. No, most governments are in this crap, you know, and it's time that it ends. And this is what COVID's doing for us. And that's why I'm so excited about it.
So in the short term, where do you see we're going, you know, from an economic point of view? I mean, working with corporates all over the world, or, you know, is that going to be happening over the next 12 months with yourself in South Africa? I mean, obviously the airports are an issue, but what's going to happen from, you know, a real on the ground, you know, economic point of view?
Look, there's going to be a slowdown, and there already is in the economy. We know that around the world, you know, economies are shrinking. Let's say an economy is shrinking at 10%, right? Most people focus on that 10%, not on the 90% that's still there. And for me, is you can create your own bubble of abundance within any market. Because don't you know some people, Steve, that never make money no matter what's going on in the economy? And don't you know some people that make lots of money no matter what's going on in the economy? And so this becomes a very personal drive for you, is how much are you exposing yourself to the chaos that's going on out there? And how much of it are you just sitting down and actually adding value in brand new ways to the world? And then being part of this new world that's coming. So are we in for a tough time? Yes. What I've done personally is take my money out of dollars and put it into pounds. I don't think that the dollar is, I think it's volatile. I think stock markets will have a bit of a hit coming up, but I think they'll balance out again. But I wanted to take my money out of the dollar process because I do think there's going to be some upheaval. I don't know what it looks like. There's many different ideas around it, but I do think that the dollar is volatile, and I think the rand is volatile. But I would try and think and imagine that the pound won't be as volatile. But we're in for a rough time, you know. And I think the thing is when you know you're in for a rough time, when you know you're in winter, what do? You dress warmly. You just stop having such extravagant ideas.
Yeah.
And so just calm down, relax, reprocess, recalibrate, learn new things, and get ready for spring.
Yeah, and maybe go and do John Sanei's masterclasses to find that passion, to find what excites you, you know, to find that fire that's going to, and, you know, if we look at the process, it is winter, but you got to start still sowing the seed to realize that if you keep sowing, the fruit's going to come. You know, like you said, there's a lot of money and a lot of businesses out there that are looking for people that have got a lot of resilience and grit, who've, you know, and out of this time, big brands are going to come out. Big businesses are going to come out of this winter season for sure. And if we have a conversation in 3 years' time, whose brand is going to be up there, you know, and whose businesses are going to be up there. That's the way I see it in South Africa and Africa. So I think there's a lot of
the people who are struggling, Steve, are the ones who are trying to keep the old world alive. When you become fluid and adaptable, you're not trying to keep an old world alive. You also got to realize that resilience is a terrible thing if it's focused on the wrong topic. So resilience in keeping the old world alive and doing what you've always done is you can die from that, man. It's just a horrible thing. So you need to also put resilience into reimagination, into thinking about what could come. And resilience needs to be applied in many different aspects in different ways. So the people that are having the most fun are the ones that are preparing for what's coming. If you're privileged enough to have the finances and the roadmap to be able to do that with, then you're having a great time because you're reimagining, rethinking, and preparing for what's coming.
It looks like you just live your life just getting excited about things, you know, just get excited if it's a joel, if it's fun, if it's happening. Are there any parts that you don't enjoy, or you just, you know, writing that book just comes easily and, you know, the editors come back and say, John, geez, incredible, well done. I mean, are there parts of your life that you just do because it forms part of the vision and forms part of the purpose in your life? Or, I mean, what I'm taking from you is, Steve, get excited. You know, start laughing a little bit more. Yes, you're working hard. Yes, you're passionate. But actually, enjoy the ride a little bit more? Are there parts of the ride you don't enjoy, John?
Look, I think the only thing I don't enjoy is walking down a street in a city, which is my favorite thing to do, get lost in a city, in a new city, alone. I sometimes suffer from loneliness in experiencing new things. I was married. And so that part of my life, I kind of like, I'm thinking about and rethinking. But like I said to you right at the beginning of the interview, I refuse, like a petulant child, to do anything that doesn't excite me. So any part of my business that I don't like, I outsource. And you know what's happened is that I've now got about 20 people around my brand, all doing what they are most passionate about, in solving the problems they need to solve based on the things that I don't want to do. And this is built up over many years, and it's now found momentum. And now I've made these people that have been working with me for a few years my partners in different projects. And so I'm trying to apply a more conscious way of developing wealth, both for myself and the people around me. And my number one rule and only rule is you can only come into this party when you're doing what makes you most excited, because I am doing what makes me most excited. And so what starts to happen is you start attracting people in the same sort of value system of what they prioritize in their lives. And so for me, excitement is my priority. And then everybody around me starts to feed off that. And then they start moving towards their priority of excitement. And it's an upward spiral of energetic, just joy and creativity and collaboration. And you know what's so funny? You know, money arrives when you start following what makes you most excited, and from the weirdest, oddest places that you never really even thought about. I've just signed a massive deal with a maybe actually I think my biggest deal in COVID, with a retail company in Finland, of all places. I mean, I'm living in Cape Town, dude. I'm quite literally on the other side of the world, literally. And I've landed my biggest deal. And she saw me speak at a conference in Dubai 6 months ago. Then we've now stayed connected on social media. And now all of a sudden she tells me her family is one of the wealthiest families in Finland and I need some help with some retail company. None of this would have happened if I wasn't excited about what I was doing. None of this would have happened if my presentation and keynote were average in Dubai. And all of this is based on me following what makes me most excited and then outsourcing everything. And I mean, quite literally, everything outside of things that don't make me excited.
Wow, incredible. That's some real value for people listening and watching on the video. A question I ask all my guests now as we come to the end of the show is, over the many years, I've seen people start things and eventually they put an action in place, then it becomes a habit, but they battle to maintain their transformation. They just don't have sustained transformation. And it's the epitome of this is in the research and the literature on weight gain and weight loss, that 80 to 95% of people will regain all their weight that they've lost within 5 years, and if not, put more on. But it's not only weight gain or weight loss, it's in all areas where people battle to maintain their transformation. Tell us your 3 top pieces of advice or hacks. I mean, I know we've spoken a lot about it, but how can people maintain the transformation?
There's a massive difference between motivation and discipline. And people that revert back have got no discipline. All they've got is motivation. And the difference between the people who have the discipline to follow through are the ones that have stopped following a to-do list and have created a to-be list. When you have got a very clear idea of who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world, the discipline becomes obvious. When you haven't decided who you want to be, you don't have an end result in mind, there's no discipline. And so when the alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m., you snooze it. When you have discipline, when your alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m., you're already up for 10 minutes. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think many people focus in on the physical aspects of their lives and on their emotional blueprint that creates weight gain, that creates laziness, that creates lack of self-worth, that creates all these things that become mental blocks for us. And then what we say is we're lazy. No, actually, you're not. What you've done is not healed some parts of your being, your emotional states, because that 5 kilos that you're carrying is maybe just your body protecting itself from something that feels like there's a danger out there because of something you haven't healed when you were a kid. So for me, it's not just about it's like, look, it's not about shaming yourself and not keeping together with your deal. It's about maybe you focused on the wrong thing. Maybe you should be focusing on your emotional state and your exercise. And now all of a sudden you find the fortitude, you find the drive, you find the discipline to go through with it. And so, yes, we all fall off the wagon, but the ones that keep falling off the wagon have got lack of clarity of who they want to be and how they want to show up in the world.
Fantastic. Wonderful pieces of advice from John Sanei. It's been a privilege. Where can people find you, John? I mean, I know your new book's coming. That's going to be your 4th book. Where can people connect with you?
So I always ask people to connect with me on either LinkedIn or Instagram. I am the only John Sanei in the world, which is amazing because I've looked it up. Out of the 8 billion ants running around in the world here, there's no John Saneis. So I'm the only one. Happy to be one. So yeah, find me, follow me, join me, ask me questions, whatever the case may be. And I'm constantly sharing as I have aha moments myself. I find that sharing them solidifies the thinking for myself. So I'm constantly researching and having aha moments. So join me on the journey.
Brilliant. And then the Expansive podcast that I've enjoyed over the time with Eric Krug is also a place where there's a lot of value there. So thanks so much, John Sanei. I look forward to seeing you, and I'm, I respect your voice. I think you're a delight. You've just your zeal and your zest has just almost transposed straight to me, and I just want to have a bit more fun. I'm a hard worker. I'm disciplined. I've got a very strict routine. But I think I'm going to take away that I'm going to enjoy and laugh a little bit more.
Look, you're obviously very smart at what you do, and it's amazing. But what I can just say, one thing is move out of your head and into your heart. And it's moving away from the masculine and into the feminine. It's being more kinder to what your body wants rather than what your mind tells it to do. And so, yes, with discipline also comes the ability to be kind to yourself and to be calm. And it's okay if you don't do those extra kilos. It's okay sometimes. Sometimes it's okay. It is, and it needs to be. Because what we do is there's a great saying. It says, are you running away from the darkness or are you running towards the light? And many people are doing what they're doing, running away from something. They don't want to be poor. They don't want to be fat. They don't want to be in a bad relationship, rather than building towards something that says, I want to be fit. I want to be rich. I want to be in a good relationship, rather than running away. And one is motivated by anxiousness and the other one's motivated by excitement. And when you get excited about something, you become calmer quite naturally. When you're anxious about something, you can't switch on, and you've got I've got it. And that just, your adrenal glands are done. You upsetting people around you. It's just like, it's a crock of shit. So yeah, follow your excitement and you'll find yourself being more feminine and calmer with yourself and actually quite happier.
Sounds good, John Sanei. I wish you all the best. Declare blessing and favor over you, all your endeavors. And South Africa's not going anywhere. We need you. I know you're an international citizen and traveler, but more and more people need to hear about just follow what excites you, what you're passionate about. I think those are, key fundamental principles that we need to hold on to. I think it sort of demystifies this thing of trying to find your purpose and your why. What are you excited about? What gets you up in the morning? What fuels your fire? And thank you so much. And hopefully we can connect in the future as the biohacking world is growing significantly in South Africa and Africa, and SteveStavs and the Made to Thrive show are here. If you've got any queries and comments, please let us know. We will engage with you. The future is making sure you're optimizing your mind, your body, your soul. That includes your emotions, as John has spoken about in this interview, in this podcast, and upwards and onwards for both John Sanei and the Made to Thrive show. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much.